So welcome everyone. Before we head into all of the things, I think we also did a little bit of the introduction. But within Next Level Esports and the community, and with all of the webinars, programs, courses, and everything that I host, the biggest thing that is basically the most unexpected thing is like the connection and the involvement of coaches, right? We just know like, okay, what country are you from and what city are you from? But it's also interesting to learn, okay, what kind of coaches do we have? Because believe it or not, we can learn so much from one another. Whether that's League of Legends coaches working with Rocket League coaches or Overwatch coaches working with Valorant coaches, we all had it and it was all valuable. So take this as an opportunity to start a little bit off with your networking as well. And also I would like to know, and for the rest to know, so we can really focus on your personal goals for today, because we're talking about structuring your practices like a pro. What currently your biggest challenge is when you're structuring your practices. So please also use the chat and write another sentence of like, okay, your name, probably you already have your name right, but your role, maybe you're an assistant coach, maybe you're a performance coach, maybe you're a manager, maybe you're doing research or whatever reason. What is your role? What is your current level of coaching? Are you maybe, Division 4, Division 1, being in a professional team, etc.? This is also quite nice to know about everyone. So, everyone is looking at the chat, so everyone knows a little bit who's dealing with who. And also, what is your biggest challenge, right? So maybe what would you like to take away from today? Is there maybe something specifically, or you feel like, hey, my players are losing interest, or it's they have an attention span of like a goldfish. How can I improve it during my practices, or how can I keep it fun, variety, whatever it is? So please send it out into the chat so everyone has a little bit of an overview of everyone. And also, right, it's easy for me because if there are some things that basically overlap, then it's easy for me to spend a little bit more time or emphasis on that particular topic, so we can all leave today's webinar with a lot of value and we can put it into practice as well. So for the people who are just watching as well, let's put it just here on the screen. So here we got some Valorant head coach in Tier 2, Tier 3 Valorant, League of Legends, Ultra Liga is also League of Legends, right? So challenge is keeping the players connected to the practice, right? Finding an effective practice outside of review plus scrimmages, exactly. Sounds really good. Sam is a lecturer and course leader in coaching and management at the College of Esports Uni in London, right? Good decade of experience. Like any sort of information and knowledge related to what the differences are between traditional and electronic sports from a theoretical and practical point of view. Awesome. You for sure get something out of that. Yep, a mental coach for League of Legends as well. It's an analyst, pandas, behavior of my team rather than gameplay. All right, the human side of esports. Well, that's basically all we do here at Next Level Esports. So I think you were right at the right place. Biggest issue is consistency and keeping players engaged. Well, you will be getting some answers on that by the end of today. Making mental coaching interesting for my players. All right, awesome. Yep. Struggle with balancing the right amount of criticism I give to the players during scrim. So either it's too much for their attention span, getting overwhelmed, right? How to keep the focus. It's the team mental state of the players. Exactly. Mood, motivation. All right, awesome. Yeah, League of Legends, LFL. Sports coaching and esports coaching. Welcome, Kabir, by the way. Good to see you. Research for 7 years of coaching experience. All right, awesome. Also League of Legends, Rocket League. All right, awesome. Awesome. So then we have head coach. And Laura, I manage a youth league. Yes, from the beautiful XP League. Amazing to have you here. I'm here to learn how to better support our coaches and players. Yep. And provide the most meaningful and productive practice sessions that we can. Well, Laura, you're in for a treat. So we'll get into it. All right, awesome. Yeah, Latin America. All right, very cool. So there are a lot of similar things, but also a lot of different things. And I can guarantee that we have at least answers for everyone. At least that is, the goal that we will have of today. So let's dive into it. But before we dive into the thing, I think I see many familiar faces, but also a couple of new faces that I've never seen or spoken to before. I've seen them, on the inside the Discord server, or maybe interacted, but maybe they don't really know my story. So I just, within 1 minute, I'm gonna just introduce you guys towards me, what my background is, and a little bit of my story, so you have a little bit of a feel of everything that we're gonna do today. So in order to start off, welcome, my name is Donny. I'm 33 years old and I live in the Netherlands. And in 2015, I was a collegiate League of Legends player. And as a League of Legends player, I was told that in just a few weeks, we were going to get assigned a coach for the very first time. And I was so excited. I was like, he's going to bring us together. He's going to motivate us. He's going to really make an impact. He's going to do the team building. And he's going to improve us, on the game. But as the time came, it was a total disappointment. It was empty because the coach that I've got, he had all of the game knowledge and he stood behind the PC and he was, giving out or handing out all the mistakes and all the improvement points that I and the team can do. But there was no team building, no motivation, no compliments, no nothing, and no structure. We just went into the scrim and that was that. And I felt so disappointed. And I really thought, with my background of teaching, that's like, okay, this is something that, can be so much, better, because esports is such a great feeling to be competing and building and learning together as a team. So the coach, I already understand, is a huge role. So I decided already at the early stage to become a coach myself as well. I coach a team, and then I was like, okay, I want to improve, right? Because I have my teaching background, my experience and everything, but how can I improve as an esports coach, right? So I was really looking everywhere, first of all in the Netherlands, but then I was branching out into the world. But basically the answer was there was nothing about esports coaching. Of course, you have traditional sports, but it's not in the context of the digital environment. It's a different culture, different way, because, esports players usually only get a coach, if they are lucky, when they're 15 or maybe 16 years old. And in traditional sports, you already have a coach, when you're just are able to walk or, able to run after a ball. So this is a big, challenge and also an issue that I spotted. So I was really thinking hard and was like, but what can I do, right? Is this really something that I should do, or why isn't there something like this in the world just yet, right? So I took a couple of months thinking about it, but I kept repeatedly thinking about it. So at one certain point, I thought, if I'm not gonna do it, who else is gonna do it, right? That was 2016, something like that. And really about I started my journey in order to, fill that gap. But I had to, overcome my own challenges. I want to improve as a coach, etc. So I studied coaching with books, courses, traveled Europe and different parts to really understand the human aspect. Because basically I did some research and collected problems of coaches, managers and everything. And basically the thing that correlated with everything, that the problems all arise from we don't know how other human beings or in the general psychology just work or operate. So I did that, and I started to doing stuff for free, really because I created my own things and tried some things from traditional sport, but then in the esports context, right? Because again, it was a different culture. So I did a lot of stuff for free, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this for a small period of time. And if my value is good enough, then in a couple of months, they will send me a message back hey, really love what you were doing. Can you work with us? And that was the moment I really started to work in esports and also was able to get my bills paid. Basically, I got paid to do performance coaching, coaching teams, etc., and solving their problems for them. So I kept on going, improving, getting results and everything, and studied along the lines of, being a performance coach for several teams, not specific. I started in League of Legends, but also did like FIFA, Valorant, and all, and also Counter-Strike. And because I kept on going, I also got achievements in terms of like building local or national teams all the way up to the international stages. And that was pretty cool. And as I was getting the results, there was, quite a decent amount of money I was making in terms of like in esports, right? It's not like, millions or thousands, like 10,000, of everything. But compared to esports, I was doing pretty well. But I had one single problem, because the thing that I was getting paid for was just the simple fact that esports coaches could not handle the basics of team dynamics, right? I was literally paid for teams to come in for a workshop to talk about how to schedule, how to align scheduling with the players, right? Well, that's easy money for like a 2 hours workshop, right? To cash out like 600 euros. But I was like, why are there no tools to educate, again, from the initial problem I faced, to work really with the esports coaches? So I really wanted to help them. So at that point, I started, okay, it will be a risk, right? Because there's nothing like it, especially not very specifically. So that is now like about like 2.5, 3 years ago. And I completely only focus on the esports coaching side and what is practical. So I did a lot of things in terms of like finding the best ways, webinars like this, group coaching, partnerships in the US, in India, in Australia, working with other teams, working with many individual coaches, etc. And over the course of, all of the years, I roughly have, coached already above 1,000 esports coaches across programs, engaging with them, etc., and help them achieve the next level. So why do I all say this? Because I want to do this for you as well. So all the things I'm giving you is all the experience, right? So it's combined with, psychology and all the things that are at the back end, but I'm a very practical guy. What are the things that, of all of the interactions I've had with all of these coaches, what are they struggling with? So I condensed everything and created, very practical frameworks and tools, which we were gonna cover and go into today. And hopefully by the end of this, you can also achieve your own pinnacle or your own ambitions, whether that's a world stage, whether that's going to a LAN, or just making, an income with esports coaching or any ambition that you might have. So this is basically the background. So now you know a little bit about me, but enough of that. Today, in the upcoming 90 minutes, we will talk about a successful and unsuccessful practice in an interactive way to become aware of what you want to do and what you want to avoid as a coach. Then I will introduce the framework of coaching, which is a framework that helps to structure your practices like a professional and that really looks at all the detail levels. So that will be very helpful. And then, of course, right, not only stating like, okay, this is what you want to do, but actually going through the steps to give you, a lot of stuff to take with you in your practices and to have new perspectives to change your approach in the way you structure your practices. And then, of course, the last part is use it or lose it, and also what is possible in terms of like the next steps in your next level. So with that out of the way, enough talking, but let's start doing. So today, a little bit about the values of how I always teach and how I always do things. It's theory and practice all at once. So it's not only a lecture and anything, it's really involvement and getting you to think and be involved and engaged as well with the things that you're struggling with or challenged with. And this will help tremendously with your career growth, because if you can be more impactful as a coach, right, you will be getting better results, and as a result of that, you will be getting in better teams and better, opportunities. And as always, I only believe in transformation. Too many coaches only have the best information, but information doesn't mean anything if you don't feel it, if you don't experience it. So that's why I always focus on transformation. So with that being said, I have one interesting exercise to start to kick off before we jump into the framework of coaching, and that is called the Miro, and it's an interactive. Oh, let me put it like this. It's an interactive. Like need to practice, or let's put it like webinar. So now I can save it, share it. What should I do? And you guys will be thinking, let me just see, what do I do? Why is it not working? I prepared everything so vividly for this moment, and then it goes like this, a little bit. Why is it? Because it's the free version? No. I should be able to share it. Donny is waiting for the presentation to stop. I should be able to share this one. Invite unlimited members for free. There used to be a link literally this afternoon. Oh, Lord. Does anyone works also with Miro that maybe can help me? Because this is something unexpected, so excuse me for this, but you know, where humans work, there will be made mistakes. Your browser zoom level. All I want is to share. The only one on the board. No, it's not present. All right. Well, if you guys want access, can you guys fill in the emails? Yeah, it's Dutch. So if you guys can send the emails in the chat, I will quickly do this. So excuse me, guys. Yeah, I know I use Mentimeter as well, but I have this set up. So I will just copy paste everything immediately, right? Send invitations. Yeah, excuse me. This should have been done better. But usually there's just like a button to share the link with. And this is the very first time. So let me just put everything in. Thank you guys for being patient and sharing your email addresses. You guys are amazing. I will make up for it, I promise. Thank you guys for the quick response. So in the meantime, what the exercise is, because I can do that at the same time, even though I'm a man, right? So what we're going to do is we're gonna use some post-its. I will invite the rest as well soon. We're gonna take like 5 minutes and we're gonna write down as many things. What makes a successful practice and what makes an unsuccessful practice. It's just to get your brain started, to really fire up your neurons, to make the, you know, all the connections inside your brain, to really think about, okay, if I experience a session of me myself, what contributes to a successful practice and what contributes to an unsuccessful practice, right? So, of course, one thing is proper preparation. So I failed on that department, right? But you know, this is what you got to think of. So let me invite the rest as everyone else is joining. I hope the rest can join too. Else, I have no idea what the hell is going on. All right, I see people joining already, so that's good. Things are working. Yeah, Laura Smurving, for sure. All right, so everyone is joining in. Let me see. Do I got you, Dorian? I believe so. Yep, that's good. No, I don't believe you have to make a Miro account, because everyone is joining in. So for the people that are already there, you can start with the exercise as if the rest, because even though, you know, it doesn't work or whatever, if you only jump into like after 1 minute, that is okay, because we will be looking at the overview before we continue. So please use the Miro. On the left side, as you can see on my screen, you will click this tab on the left, right? And you grab a post-it and you just drag it somewhere, and then you write unsuccessful is no preparation. So that is my thing, right? So that's already good. And keep on dragging the things what you think about when it's a successful practice. Maybe, you know, it's engaging, it's fun, it's meaningful, all of those things. So think about what are you thinking about. Right? You can, of course, watch what the other coaches are doing, but you will be learning a lot more if you're involved and really challenge yourself. Okay, what am I doing? Right, we got some people coming in. And if you really struggle to get in, or you don't have the invite, that's really totally completely on me, but this will be the only exercise where we will be using this. So don't worry, the rest of the thing will be good. So we already got some things like an unsuccessful practice is no objective, a lack of discipline within gameplay, a lack of habits. Yeah, players wanting to leave straight after practice, no preparation. Nothing important for the players, exactly. So here we have a successful practice already, asking open questions, evidence-based, coach is mentally present, intentional, lots of open questions, set goals for the practice, coach is mentally present, exactly, having team cohesion, it all contributes. All right, we're getting some awesome answers here already. So your team, yeah, let me just give access if that is the same thing. Yep. See if that works. And just for 2 minutes until the clock hits 30, at least on my clock, you know, someplace in the world, it's probably close to like the 60-minute mark, depending on like crooked time zones. But on my screen, it's like 1.5 minutes. Because since we're so many, we don't need like 10 minutes for this exercise, right? Yeah, Sophia, I added you. I gave you access, but I will send you again this invitation. And excuse me once more. All right, so here we have interactive as well. No re-evaluation of work done. Exactly. All right, so 1 more minute. So is there maybe something else that you feel like, hey, what am I missing? What should I be adding? Maybe look at your own experience, right? Maybe you were once a player and something that you disliked. Because I believe everyone here is a gamer as well, right? Else what are we doing here? Or at least has a passion for gaming and the value it brings. So a couple more seconds. All right, no recording. Only focus on mistakes. I like that one a lot. All right, guys, drop your guns, drop your post-its. Now, for just 1 minute, I want you, because you were focused on your own thinking, right, your own process, I want you to look at the overview of both circles, right? And I want you to pick out maybe 1 up to 3 post-its that you didn't come up by yourself and you feel like, hey, maybe this is something I can put a little bit more emphasis on, a little bit more attention. Something that, I kind of do, but maybe I can do it more. So what are these things? Because there are so many good things that you guys came up with. And then use it into the workshop channel with just a 1, 2, 3. What you feel like, yes, this is meaningful to me. This is really, what can help me. Because that's why we're doing this in a group, right? It's not only me sending information, it's you involving, learning from one another. Because as a collective, like intelligence, we have so much to offer for one another. And it doesn't matter, if you're just starting out as a coach, or you have, 10 years of experience or 20 years of experience, it doesn't matter. So take your 1, 2, or 3, doesn't have to be 3, but at least one thing that you feel, okay, when I'm looking at this, yes, this is something, this is meaningful to me. All right. So Goya said interactive and setting goals. Fluke accept proper tracking, evaluation, and not challenging enough. Right? Sometimes we just, want to keep it as easy as possible so they, have success, or you feel like, that builds up confidence. But is it actually the case if we make things too easy? Right? Evidence-based if possible. Mentally present. Right? And players spending time after practice. Yeah. All important ingredients, right? To make it all fully come together and make it complete. So Panda is saying a good mood. Yes, exactly. The coach models the behavior and atmosphere of the team. So let me put it just like this. Right. Right. And it's not like in general, right? This is about you being a coach. What are some things that you feel like, hey, these points are meaningful for me? Not just like in general, but you feel like, okay, it's also a little bit of a self-reflection moment, right? To really think about like, I do have some mentally preparation in terms of goals, but, maybe I want to write them down, or, I want to really use something. Patrick is saying interactive or prevent longer dialogues. Yep. Learning new stuff. Exactly. So some of these things. All right. I see no one typing, so that's fine. So I guess instead of waiting, we just move on because we can still learn from one another. All right. So these are some things, right? This is basically for us based on, what we're going to get into with the framework of coaching. It's just like a warming up, right? What is important for me? By acknowledging this before we learn something, like, hi, what do I want to get out of it? It puts the attention instead of everyone having the same value with the information that will be presented. No, it's now meaningful to you, and it increases your chance for transformation, right? So that means change in behavior and change in output. All right. So let's get back to the presentation, like this. Yeah, everything ready. I should really use 3 screens, but it is what it is. So guys, now we've warmed up in having a little bit of an understanding what an unsuccessful versus successful practice is. There are 2 things when you're having a practice. There are 2 components that, create a good practice. The first one is an effective practice. So an effective practice means I set up a goal, and at the end of the practice, that specific goal is achieved. That is what is called effective, right? As straight as possibly can. But the other thing is you also want to be productive. So that means not maybe specifically one thing, that you have set up as a goal, but at the end, maybe have learned so many things or talked about, many things that you've learned a lot. Maybe not specifically on towards that goal, but you had a good experience and you've learned things that were not necessarily the goal. Now, usually within the esports coaching realm, it's usually productive, right? Because we go into a game, the team makes mistakes, and we're gonna, think about and develop and learn and be productive with the mistakes and try to improve with what is coming at us. But being effective with our coaching and really streamlining in to get somewhere and to really have this development, right, from A to B, that is sometimes difficult. Because we as coaches, we want to develop, right, our players. So whether that's a tactic, maybe a process, maybe it's a system. If you're only being productive, then the attention span goes all of the way, right? It's not bad necessarily, but we need to balance those things. So we want to have goals and still have some room to be productive as well. But if you want to make incremental steps as a coach, you really want to focus, set goals, and prepare your session and have a clear focus so you can achieve the outcome. So here are probably some things that you can, work with, or your challenge currently. So if maybe it's you that is thinking something along these lines. So I want to make my team better, but how do I do that effectively and in a productive way on a day-to-day basis? Or I want to make sure my information feels important and be presented in a way that makes the players feel motivated and excited to work on. But how do I do this, right? And I want my players to feel and know that my coaching has impact, right? Because I've talked to so many coaches that are putting in so much passion and effort and energy, but they say like, I don't know if what I'm doing actually works, right? And you want to know if it's working, right? It's a huge confidence boost, and that they are learning a lot and have a sense of development and progress on a day-to-day basis, right? So this is very important, and I believe even when I look at this, is like, okay, these are always questions that you have to keep in the back of your mind to be effective. So in order to overcome basically these challenges and problems, and also to solve the things that you've just typed into the chat, let me introduce you the framework of coaching. So this is a framework that Next Level Esports use in order to really prepare A+ experience sessions, right? Because in the traditional sports, it was really impossible or close to very difficult to really see a practical example of how a practice is set up, because usually they start, you need to have a beginning, then you have to, like the core of the practice, and you need to have a clear ending. Well, there are so many more steps and more detailed things to help you so much more in order to move from A basically to B and have a perfect, have good fulfillment and development for your players. It's not just like, you need to just have a beginning or a core. Of course, there's more detail to it, but we make it more practical in a sense it's really step by step. So let's dive into it. So the number one most important step is preparation. So I just want to know, right, in terms of preparation, how are you guys preparing your sessions right now? And is it like, I don't prepare it, right? Or I prepare it mentally, I prepare it by taking some notes, or I really prepare it with, describing every single step, when I'm gonna do this, what the approach will be, very in detail, right? So there are basically 4 stages, just call it 4 stages, right? You're just roughly speaking. So how are you preparing your practices, right? Because, right, so I'm seeing like the preparing with the notes, right? And mentally preparing, like thinking about how you're gonna do this, etc. Taking notes to review. Yeah, so usually when taking notes, I'm not sure, Goyo or maybe Salva, it's like, okay, these points that stood out from the last practice, I'm gonna take these points and, I'm gonna introduce these points for the next practice, and off we go. And preparing mentally or with notes, yeah, I believe that is probably one of the most popular approaches right now. Yeah, for sure. Yep. Figure out 2 things to focus on and review from the last day and write a to-do list. Right, exactly. So that's already good, right? That's already better than doing nothing at all, right? But we're not here to do just like what everyone else does, right? Because everyone else, as you know, naturally speaking, or a little bit maybe, natural thinking is like, okay, we need to take notes so we are somewhat prepared what we're gonna do, right? But today, this framework will help you not only to prepare with some couple of notes, but to walk you through every single step, and you can think about it in detail way ahead of time. So your practice will be smooth, it will be engaging, it will be fun and impactful, right? Yeah, stuff in my head and a couple of notes. All right, some goals, then a meeting with the players. All right, exactly. All right, looking good, looking good. So as you guys are typing, let me just continue, right? In terms of the preparation. So step number 0, right? So these are the 4 main focus points why you want to prepare. Usually what happens is, right, we have some goals or objectives, right? Maybe from the review from last, excuse me, from last practice, right? Or these things, they went wrong or it needs attention. So these will be the goals and objectives of today. All right, great stuff. You already got that. But what happens usually when I observe esports coaches, they have like an introduction, they go through a VOD review or whatever, and there's little to almost no interaction, right? And it doesn't mean like the players are not talking, but there are no questions, no guidance in terms of like, hey, where you want to lead to. So even though you present and discuss, right, in a productive way about problem solving and everything, it's not as effective, right? You can schedule or even you can prepare your interaction and how you can do that. And then, okay, now you have your interaction, you have a little bit of fun, you have your clear goals. But how are we going to exactly approach these goals? What should you expect of your players? How do you want them to communicate? What type of step of process do you want to, go from A, B, C, D, right? So you can also hold them accountable for those goals. Because having a goal alone, well, that's fine. But if there's no clear approach, well, it can become quite chaotic, right? And then you revolve into the old pattern, if like a VOD review, and it's like, okay, this happened, and then you have a discussion about the approach or situation or cooldowns or whatever, and you're getting caught in a trap. Don't get caught in the trap. And also for you as a coach to stay focused on the assessment or the goal. Because I see so many, in terms of like when they have a scrim block with a couple of games and in between, they just cover all the mistakes or the things they have to do. Well, there is a goal. They had a goal, but in the beginning, right, it's a goal and seems very clear. But as the game progressed, there's no focus on the goal at all. So how can you keep them focused? You all can prepare this. So the second step is welcoming. Now, this is a very overlooked step because, if players are dropping in, it's just like, hey, man, how you doing? How are you doing? Like, what's up, man? Yeah. Okay. This is really important. Why is welcoming a specific step? Because the way that you welcome your players and team will set the tone and mood for the practice, right? If I was just coming in, right, you guys dropped into this Discord channel and didn't say hi or whatever, right? It has a different feeling towards it, right? Or if I maybe ignore you because I always, I might have had a different interaction with other coaches. And then you feel like, okay, I'm just here listening, just tuning in or whatever. No, I try to, pay a little bit attention. You ask how you guys doing, where you guys are from, right? It's just setting a right mood and also perception of how I am feeling. If I am joyful, if I'm confident, if I'm doing something. Because I see so many coaches just, welcoming and just like, hey, man, how you doing? And just waiting for the rest to basically come up. Or when they are welcoming, that they immediately start to discuss already things that should be discussed with the whole team. So really seeing welcoming as a small, simple, yet important step, will help you a lot. So by the way, guys, we're going through the 9 steps. So if you want to take like a document, take some notes or pen and paper, this is the time, right? This is the time. So the second step is a warm-up. So since I created this system, I think it's very impactful, but maybe the warm-up term is slightly confusing because it's not warming up in terms of like really warming up with like a death match or something, what everyone usually thinks when it's a warm-up. A warm-up is basically getting your players in the right mood. So welcoming your players first is about, okay, right? I want to be enthusiastic, I want to be focused, I want to be serious. So that will be your tone. You're receiving or welcoming your players with that tone and mood. But the getting your players in the right mood is different because if, for example, one player plays or likes to warm up with a Valorant deathmatch and the other one just wants to, chill and do something else very differently, and he's just watching, funny cat videos on Instagram. Now imagine you're getting both of these players into, your practice. Even though you say, okay, guys, warm up for 10 minutes. One is doing deathmatch, one is doing, an aimbot or something. Well, you feel like, yeah, they're mechanically warmed up, but they are not mentally always warmed up, right? So that is a huge problem if one person is, for example, watching bikini girls and the other one is sweating his ass off in a deathmatch or something else. So that is why you want to do the following things, right? So you want to have a clear task. So you give a task in terms of a warm-up that everyone is doing the same, whether that is, going into shooting range, a practice tool, or maybe playing a game that has nothing to do with the game itself, but just to get everyone in the same and right mindset. That is all it is to it. And it is so important, right? Because when coaches implement this, they immediately have the attention of the players. They immediately see the engagement arise because every player after the same exercise is focused on the practice and your voice and your presentation. Don't underestimate this. If you think like, this is minor, I invite you right now, tomorrow or the next time you have practice, try to do something or implement something that everyone is doing the same thing for 5 minutes, and you will notice the change, how they are focused and wired into your attention of the practice. And because you're doing the same thing, it creates unity, right? And you can be creative. So it's not only about the deathmatch or something, right? You have all these, small games as well to, improve communication, to improve cohesion, improve, attention, and also, reacting to one another. And you can be very creative because you guys are all creative, right? Everyone needs to participate. Everyone needs to be active. So actually really has to do something. And it brings variety. So it's not only, okay, jump into a deathmatch game and then, okay, let's start today. No, if you have variety, you will have a lot more fun and engagement. People are looking, or the players are looking forward to next practice because they know we always warm up with something fun, engaging, right? And it needs to be at least fun for 5 minutes. Sometimes I see coaches do it for 10 minutes or 50 minutes. That is up to you, but at least 5 minutes, that is what the brain connects everything and gets you into the right mood. And the biggest thing is here, you want to make it challenging enough so they don't succeed 100% of the time, but they succeed 75% of the time. This is the sweet spot in order to, have them have a positive feeling about themselves while they still feel, yes, but I can improve. And when they improve by practicing over and over again, you keep upping or increasing the challenge so they stay at the 75%. Exactly. All right. So, so Flukik, you're sending like in the chat, like a site. It's in French, but you have like these small scribble.io things. It seems so stupidly simple, but it works, right? We don't care. If it works, it works. So the next step is the framework of coaching. or retrospect from the framework of coaching. So that means looking back, what was the previous practice, right? We usually go over the points of the previous practice. So, hey guys, do you remember, last practice, this went well, but these 2 points we need to improve on. That is basically all the retrospect, and that is not enough. So what do we want to do? We want to follow these exact steps. So you want to ask your players who remembers the goals and objectives from last practice, right? It's taking them back and like really actively think, okay, what was the goal, right? We're goal orientated. Okay, this is what we did. Okay, we worked on communication or this specific process. Okay, what stood out during the practice? Maybe it was, the punchline of the inside the evaluation at the end. It was like very meaningful for the team, or it was more personal. And also, what did you learn? And this is a huge, huge difference, because we only use either one of the two. We ask, what did we learn, or what was the goal? But what the goal was is not far from the truth of what the player has learned. It could be something about something completely different, but it's to check in what the player has basically retained from last and previous practice and the experience, so you understand and can also connect with this specific player or the team in general, what they learn, because it's a good feedback for you. And of course, the overall experience. And this is also a nice question, not only for like, hey, how did you experience it? Yeah, it was fine or whatever. No, it's about, because maybe they were very focused and they were really engaged and everyone was talking and was going perfect. You want to remember that, perfect situation as well. Like, yeah, we were very effective. I really liked it. It was, combined with fun and also seriousness. I really enjoyed last practice. And also think about if they say like, yeah, it was chaotic. It felt like meaningless, or I didn't learn that much or something. It was a bad experience. That is something that you can work on as a coach. And then the last 2 steps is like, you want to summarize what they are saying. So it's about interacting, not, doing the retrospect by yourself, but letting them answer it. Summarizing what they have learned and adding a positive note, and then bridging it towards what you want to go and focus on in terms of the introduction of this practice. So, as I said, you ask questions and not give a summary about yourself or about last practice. It's really, if you want to be effective, if you want to be engaging, if you want to keep them, forefront of their attention span, ask them more questions than you give answers. Step number 4. Then we move into the framework of coaching, the introductions of the goals, exercise, and tasks. Now, next to the preparation, this will be your most important step, because this is, where your VOD review or your new topic or your transformational moment will be happening, where you set the tone and the focus for the rest of your practice when you go into scrims, right? So the rest are set, but this is where your creativity and your preparation really comes into play. So introduction, you can do it with many different things, right? Into introduction, you will design, you will introduce basically the goals, objectives, everything that you basically prepared. But also you think about it needs to hold interaction. How are you going to interact with one another, right? How do you want them to execute the task or working towards the goal? And what should the focus point be? All of the things you need and want to communicate with your team or with your players. And there are many different ways to do that, right? The screenshot collection, bringing up problems, discussions, doing a VOD review, having viewing questions, playing a whole different game, having discussions, having like a custom game or dry run scenario before you go into the actual game itself, depending on what you want to learn. So let's take a look. So this is, for example, dry run a custom game. So this usually happens, within CSGO or Valorant, but it can also be just like how it feels like in any other different game. But this is just like a simple example to understand. So the question is like, how are you going to practice your goal and what do you want each player to do? So you can think about, in your strat book, because Valorant players, Counter-Strike players, they use a strat book, and they have all these different lineups about their smoke, grenades, flashbangs, molotovs, everything. But if there's something new, well, you can choose to immediately apply it into the practice. But then there's added stress, there's added complexity. Sometimes it doesn't work out, or things are forgotten, or they are pressured because they need to win and perform. So that is why you take the pressure off and let the mechanics basically get into the fingers, basically the motorical memory basically of a player. So just dry run it. It's a very effective way if you're unsure if they're capable of applying it into the practice, right? So don't be afraid to just spend an extra 10 or maybe sometimes. No, I should do the application. So let me just put it like this. No. Is this one? So I will. So now we have the right one. So please join my stream. Is it different? Else you will not be hearing anything, and the comms are important, even though it's you see the text. So please join it. Just waiting 1 second. And basically the question, the viewing question, so this is important, right? You don't just watch a VOD review. You never want to watch just a VOD review. You always want to give a viewing question or viewing questions. Because why? It brings the focus towards the things you want them to focus on. Else they might be, distracted by the crowd, the audience, sounds, or different place that you don't want them to have attention on. So guiding them beforehand, before showing a VOD review helps a ton with engaging your players, right? To have a fruitful discussion afterwards as well. So now for you guys, the viewing question is, how are both teams communicating? What are some things they are saying? Right, so pay attention to what they are saying. And the question is, what do you think or what happened here? Right, so let's take a look. So this is the Call of Duty Major, and you see the communication. Let's see.
Please welcome to the stage, Optic Texas! Let's get it going, Texas! Let's go!
By the way, do you guys hear it? Yes or no?
Yep, it's clear.
Okay, perfect.
Yo, guys, we game ready?
I'm good to go.
Absolutely game ready.
You guys are the best team the world has ever seen. This is our tournament, and we've worked for this moment.
Yeah, everyone, good teamwork. Take a few breaths, level ourselves out.
We play our simple system of Call of Duty. We take rounds, we call out when we're going rogue, we small talk, and we absolutely slam these guys to the ground, okay?
Let's play our game, all right?
Yep. You guys are disgusting. We've been looking good in scrims.
Let's make sure we're playing at our pace, man.
Let's make a statement with this map and slam and start this off hot, all right? Let's get it.
Yes, sir.
Good pace. Don't get antsy. Don't get fast. Good comms. Calm and collected.
Don't get lost in the moment, bro.
Yes, sir.
All right, into the map one we go as Shotzi and the boys get soaring on forward.
Yo, on you. I don't see Lucy.
One shot, first lead bullet.
You want to use your shot. You want that?
Nice.
Watch it over top. Nice decision. Let's go.
This one back where this one.
Where this one, guys?
I
I'm right now. I'm holding.
In time, Seth.
You want cheater? Get out.
On time,
Back window. I'm your cheater.
I don't know where he's landing.
I'm one shot.
There's field. These ones. Close to shapes.
10 week.
I'm trying to help 10.
10 week.
I'm 10. Good job. Yo, we flip. Yo, flip.
Okay, I got
Shotzi one shot. Yo, he's back close. He's in close. Yo, take your time. Let's go, Tyler.
Come on. What are you doing?
Let's go. Give me some fish.
Come on. All good.
Slow down. We're vibing.
All good, baby. Touch me, baby.
That's so annoying, dude.
All good, all good. Don't matter.
So many gun threats I should have won.
My bro, all good.
Every single one of you just went huge when you needed to. Good job.
You look good if you are either team. It is a heat check. It is an ego check. These guys want to punch each other in the face until somebody drops. As the chants begin to grow for the Optic side, they look to answer the call.
I ain't pinch.
Yo, what's stopping window? Stopping window. Right of them. Ellie Hallway.
I'm flank. I'm team flank. I'm team hall.
Ellie Hallway. I got. It's there. No.
Yo, play.
Oh my god.
Alright, everyone get up.
It's a 2-0 edge for FaZe.
All right, guys. So this is the intro. Now I'm gonna press play again for the remainder of the video, and this is the moment where you guys have seen FaZe is up 2-0 in a best of 3. So then, you know, if they win one more game. And now it's really putting in attention what is happening and how are the teams are communicating and how the, you know, did they already communicate. So
Simp still looking like the best player in the world.
They've won the undefeated Bocage. They have won Berlin Search and Destroy, which has been Optic's best S&D at 3-1. Now they're challenging them on Tuscan Control, which has been Optic's best control map. This is what I meant. They're like, all right, let's do this. Like, you want to dance? We're gonna dance.
All right, boys, let's go. Lock back in.
Yeah. Come on, put these kids to bed. We're not losing any gunnies right now. It's not a gunny battle.
It's not the gunny, let me tell you. Yeah, it's not the gunny.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. That's why we're just calming and working with each other. We're gonna win this. We're actually gonna. It's gonna be the easiest versus ever.
2-0. FaZe are up. Optic now have got to pull off the reverse sweep like they did last time they played on land 3 years ago. But maybe it's time to get a little bit messy, a little bit rowdy.
Top.
Top
broken.
Top broken. On A right now.
You think?
You. He's stuck in your. That there's on you. That there's on you.
I point to one shot.
Yo, I'm gonna be. Plant that.
I need
I'm gonna plant.
No, he's Octane.
Yo, what?
Octane, I'm one shot. One guy's on the radio.
Radio.
I need a short. Yo, back short, Alec.
What's crossing? Back short. Octane spot.
Back short again, Sim.
Still left, guys.
Are they ready to push?
Back left, dead.
What's plant?
What's up? Nice, shoot up. Baby, let's go, baby. Yo, good map.
Yo, Brandon. You are gross, brother.
Yeah, let's go, yo, good, baby.
Bro, Brandon, they can't guard you, Jesus.
We're not talking at all.
I know. Try and call out this a little bit.
Yeah.
Yo, guys, those comps were beautiful. Keep it up. Seriously, everybody. Beautiful comps, man. So we just weren't saying what we were doing at all.
No, not at all.
Map 4. Optic roaring back into this one. The crowd fired up.
Mid-tank, I'm off a streak, mid-tank.
I'm gonna walk back. I got you.
Low boiler. I got streaks.
You're crossing. You're crossing.
I'm backing up.
He's hurt. Yo, all 3-year-old.
I'm backing up. I got a glide.
Can someone get new, guys?
Yeah, I got it.
Yo, I'm low clip right now.
I'm in the background.
Yo, tell me when to streak. Yo,
He's fine, I look at it.
I'm slow.
I'm getting the L.
Yo, P1 and green.
Top green.
Yeah, P1 and green, one off spawn on the back.
P1 ape absolute.
Yo,
In the back.
Yo, P1.
Yo,
He's running back.
Where's this one?
I need to open you up.
Red power. Run back.
Sit down.
I got you. Set go first. Good job, let's go.
Alley now, Seth. Don't try.
I said one shot, Ali. Back time, one shot. Time.
Got you dead.
I'm needing
That's your time,
over you.
That's Seth.
That's weak. He's back though.
Never-
He's still back there.
I need him.
You're missing one. He's still back.
I can't see.
He's on 5.
I'm needed.
Try to help Tom. Shotzi, that's crossing.
Shit.
Yo, set. Oh, that's
I can cross now.
Missing Ellie.
Missing Illy, he got out. Go.
Scump, are you joking?
another cross.
Seth, you were actually ready. Jesus,
You are.
You were gross, dude. You are so good, Seth. Damn! Get his yo into it. Your palms right now are beautiful. God damn!
Let's go in the back.
Yeah, let's go in the back.
Maybe you guys can see where this is going. 2 more minutes. Let's play.
It's map by map. They push FaZe the distance.
We got this. We're the best search team here. You guys know what's coming to you guys. Play with confidence, communicate, make sure you guys are talking about what you're doing. If we're sliding together, what we're doing and how we're doing it. And you guys close this out. Let's get it, baby. Use deep breaths, reset, and let's talk these guys. Come on, one more time. Let's get it.
Yes, sir.
It is time for a map 5 Optic FaZe. A battle that we will not soon forget.
Smoke.
Let's finish it right here.
Let's play this map perfectly right here.
Yep.
See behind the truck. I don't see behind the truck. Yo, behind the truck, Alex.
There's out there, Sade.
Run up top church. I set him top church.
Sounds like.
I'm like safe. Fucking go.
Top church.
Where's he?
Don't throw that.
No, I've got it. I'm all of it, guys. I'm all of it.
I'm watching mid. I'm watching the mid pusher.
We're in a really good setup, guys. You guys see him? Still nothing, eh?
Nice. Yo, let's go, man.
You're actually different. Last
Let me assassinate him.
No. Do a bomb check.
I know why.
Keep playing these rounds out.
Yep, 110%.
But there's a quick plant down, but it's another opener for Optic.
0-6 now for Abizi, but can his team get him to another round? Man advantage to Optic. They have to work to defuse.
You're talking one of the best search and destroy players all time on a goose egg.
Alright, I'm doing the jump.
He's there. I'm waiting for reset. I'm waiting for reset. I'm one shot.
You guys wait for someone else. I'll pop that.
The jump.
Let's go. I'm hitting this kid. Oh, you guys play back in.
What do you guys have to hop though?
Wait, don't hop yet.
Yo, middle. Well.
I got top. Hop there.
It's just hop on. We get the hop on.
Top. We got it.
I don't know. No. I don't think we did.
They didn't get it. Wait, we did.
No, we did. We got that.
I don't know.
I don't think they get it.
100% got that.
Wait, no! Did he get it?
They got it. They got
Sure?
it. They got it. You sure?
I got it! It's done!
All right, coaches. Back to the presentation. This is what was going down. Oh, different screen. So guys, unmute yourself, and I'm curious how are both teams communicating? What are some things they say? What happened here? What did you guys saw?
I guess I'm gonna start. People are shy. Phase 1-2 maps, and they got good vibes. They're talking really well. And after an Optic, even if they're losing, they stay positive. They keep bringing good vibes and good energy, and then they come back 2-1. And after that, FaZe stop talking. They don't want to talk. They don't want to debrief. No, it's okay. They just try to make like nothing happened. And Optic just came back. Always good vibes. And I guess that's all I can say.
I believe that's a correct conclusion. Did anyone see something different, or it was the same? Leon, you unmuted, so you wanted to say, or maybe Gojo?
Yeah, I mean, I would just agree, and also add that at the beginning, both teams are kind of like hyping them up for the game. But then, as Sava already did said, FaZe was basically just getting quiet more and more every round they lose. When Pick just like kept the conversation going and the hype going as well. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I just wanted to emphasize again that the hyping each other up. I think that was really powerful, and just like building each other's confidence.
Right. Exactly. Very important, right? So what can we learn from this, right? In terms of like, we are now here learning about the introduction of the framework of coaching. What are some things that we can learn from here, right? So if you are putting like an example like this, a concept behind it, into your own practices, you can, for example, use this if you're, in your own game, because you have also like voice comms in like Valorant or League of Legends, right? You can use this if your team is, for example, hyping each other up, but once it goes south, right? Once they start losing, the motivation starts dropping. So you put them into like the attention span in terms of you make them become aware of what is actually going on inside the team. And then you can implement, the tools or, some things that you want to work on during your practice, your scrim block, for example. It can be communication-wise, but it can just be, about the Baron play or setting up a specific site in Valorant or whatever it may be in terms of a VOD review. You can use example or at least the same concept with the viewing question and put the real emphasis of like, this is what is going on. And this is a good example because it immediately also holds the mistake of like what FaZe is not doing and what Counter Logic game is really good at, is staying motivated, believing in it, talking positively instead of talking down, of like, oh, we didn't communicate, yeah, we didn't do that, right? It's a completely different approach, and these moments click with players. So that is that.
Please walk.
All right, so
there's a bit as well. I noticed as well during it was the phase was very much like kind of saying this is a problem, but not really giving any real conclusions or answers to the problem as well. And they're saying
Exactly.
it's like we're not talking, but there's like that's it. You know, there's no like this guy needs to talk about this or any like actual improvement. You know, it's just negativity.
Great point there. Mixing that in previous. So exactly to that, and that is also, you know, what we're gonna cover in the next step, and that is the core of the practice. So you always want to do, you know, want to focus on what you do want to say, right? Usually I also hear coaches saying like, oh, we really need to avoid, don't fight them if they don't do this, don't do this. But what do you actually want? Do you want your players to do? Think it in positive language. The amount of energy and intention goes behind that. It becomes so much, like 10 times clearer for your players to focus on a positive intention rather than to put the focus on avoiding something. Right? It's really dangerous if you use or mix up these languages, and it happens a lot. So the core of the practice. So this is when the players and the team is running, right? So there's a couple of things reasons why coaches do not coach during the practice, because they say players are not able to be coached during a game, like in an official game, when in a tournament, so I don't coach while they are playing, right? Or they don't know how to coach during the game or know what to say, or the players find an extra voice in the comms annoying, right? It depends on how you use it. And we are going over the mistakes in the VOD review anyway. So I save it. I save my feedback or my focus points for the VOD review. Well, it all sounds logical, but when you think about it, when we compare it to traditional sports, right? I understand that we cannot shout across like a field, you know, when they're playing hockey, football, or whatever reason. So we have to do it in a different way, right? So how can we do that? It's called practical guidance, right? You need to or want to use short and immediately applicable sentences, right? So like, what's your minimap? Focus focus on the positioning of the enemy, right? You are not asking questions. You're not telling whole stories, right? And this is the most important part. Focus on what you do want to see. This is so important. So even though, because we're spending like sometimes 20 to 45 minutes in one single game, sometimes even more, and if we're not helping them to stay focused on the goal, it becomes very difficult to track progression and development. So using only a couple of moments and, you know, examples or focusing them in a positive formulated way helps them so much to stay on track during the game. Because it's just a short sentence like, watch the enemy, watch the enemy like item spike, you know, stay together in the team fight, or you know, place vision first. All of those things, it helps a ton with your players and their development during practice.
Can I say something, Donny?
Yeah.
About what you said, sorry to cut you. About what you said, most of time coaches forget to bring good vibes, and players just starting to, they're playing for not losing, they're not playing for winning, and that's all the difference.
Yep.
So that's all I want to say there.
Yeah, exactly. Richu, yeah, for sure. Let's go.
Ruler, but the last part you said, like sometimes set specific things to focus. On the past, I had some bad situations with it, because even if I said like on League of Legends, for example, like short sentences or specific things, the players can get confused because they are thinking on too many things over the game. So something I have done is like, if we have goals to do over the game, like for example, we are practicing team fights executions, or we are practicing vision control, and I see they are not doing it, I just pause. I just do a short sentence and talk with them, like 15 seconds, 30 seconds, to focus on the objective, remember the objectives. If we are not doing the objectives properly, don't get frustrated, because sometimes, for example, if we are practicing team fights and they are not focused, we lose the team fights. So they start getting frustrated. So I pause, I remember them the objective we are practicing, and to take into account that we are practicing the objective. So even if we like ended losing, even if we have like a bad execution, it's normal because we are practicing the objective, and that's all that matters. Doesn't matter if we lose or win the game, because even if we win the game, it's like whatever if we are not practicing the objective.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's not like within this webinar, but that is called stop and go moments. At least that's how I call it, and that's how I phrase it, and also what I work on with coaches. So this is like the practical guidance, right, with the short sentences during the play. And the most important thing about communication is timing, right? So if they are inside of a team fight, you are not coaching them. Right? It's too difficult, and I completely understand, like, you don't do this. But, like, if they're walking across the river, if they're doing something and there's, like, a few seconds in between, like, to focus, those are usually the timings where you can say this. But it's all coming down to timing. And what you're saying is beautiful, because these are the stop and go moments of, like, in between rounds, or pausing, at that moment, or really to put the focus on. And that is the moment where you have a couple of more sentences, or, you can even ask some interaction in terms of questions to keep your players and team on the same page, and to really focus on the goal that you set out for the practice. So I think that's a beautiful example that you gave there, Rigju. So thank you for your input. So here are some examples. So stick to the system plan, have clear targets to shot call, just some easy examples to work with, right? So also during the core of the practice, you want to be positive, right? Too many coaches are only focusing on the mistakes. So yeah, this can be better. We have to watch out for this player, blah, 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 blah. Try to reverse it, right? Give compliments on everything. Just try it for 1 second, right? Who cares? You're experimenting, right? You want to grow as a coach. Try to do it the opposite way. Try to be 80% of your time on what goes well and 20% on improvement. You will see the dynamic and the feel that the players will have about the practice. It's much more positive. They go away, or they leave the practice with a much better feeling, right? It doesn't mean you have to avoid criticism or mistakes at all. No, it's just like reinforcing the things that they are doing well, right? So you're supporting them in their process step by step in becoming a better player and team. And you always want to focus effort over result, right? So a good example is, even though the play was good, but if it's not focused on the goal of today's practice or the effort, sometimes it's just better to skip the comment at all, because you only want to focus on the effort and the process they are putting in terms of like the goal that you are talking about, or the practice is all about. So never forget that if you focus on effort, you will have a much better team, much more development, and much more result. Because if you truly care about results, then you should truly care about your effort. Another thing, of course, I believe many of you already do. So taking notes. So what are you noting down during practice? Is it like everything, or maybe you can use the chat, a couple of examples. How are you using your notes during practice? Or maybe you don't have any notes. I had one Rocket League coach who said, like, yeah, everything goes so fast that it's really difficult for me, right, to take notes, because I have to also look at the screen and the play is going so fast. So, well, it's different for everyone, but maybe how do you take notes? How do you take notes? All right, timestamps, short notes together. Yeah, repeat mistakes, write down a few key moments. I assume that's what you meant. Exactly. Timers, mistakes, Good plays. Yeah. Big mistakes. Good stuff. Right. Previous of the objective. Based around that. Main your game improves. Mood of the team. Right. Exactly. Right. Awesome stuff. So let's take a look at it. So you want to write down the things for sure that you want to discuss in evaluation. So this is different than, you know, writing down everything, because everything that you write down doesn't necessarily has to be evaluated, right? You can only load the players with an evaluation up to a certain threshold in terms of like their working memory. If you have 10 points of improvement or even good things, it's difficult to keep track of that everything. So you want to make a selection already by, you know, when you're nearing the end of the quarter of practice, what you want to discuss in the evaluation. Because if you just take notes, you become so much more aware of what is happening, right? And you will gain a much deeper understanding of all the intricacies and all the connections, why the players are behaving, right? Previous also said like, the mood of the team, right? If you feel like, hey, the mood is going down into a more negative spiral because they made a mistake or maybe a consecutive mistake, these are things that are interesting perhaps for you to talk about. Let me put the streaming here. And also an overview of your players and how they work, right? Maybe it's not something that you understand by, working with them after a week, but if you take notes and you write down all the intricacies, all the details about the play styles, even though you don't discuss them, you will start to paint a really good picture and understand your players. So that's what you want. Step number 6, we're heading towards the end. So the framework of coaching. In terms of like step number 6, the evaluation of the practice. So there are 3 aspects of a good evaluation. First, you want to evaluate the goal. Did we came closer to it? Did we actually worked on the goal? Because why would you set a goal if you only talk about all of these other things, right? So it's really good to stay focused and to have an effective ending as well. And also ask and engage with them how they've practiced and also what they have learned. Because again, what they've learned is very much different most of the time instead of the goal. So here are some questions to ask your players at the end of the practice. So what was the goal for today's practice? Just so you know, a little bit of retrospection of like, we worked on communication or, staying positive or helping each other stay positive, etc. And did we get closer to achieving that goal, or did we even achieve it, right? And how did you experience, how did you practice today? Were you focused? Was it easy? Was it fun, etc.? Were you putting in all the effort? And how did you experience it? And what did you learn from today's practice? And last but certainly not least, what are you going to do, stop doing, or never forget from this practice? Then, almost the final step is looking back and looking ahead. Because before, usually coaches do like, okay, we have the evaluation and then we're done, right? Okay, guys, these were the things I want to discuss. Thank you for your input and see you guys tomorrow. I've seen that happen many times. So what you want to do is next time before you enter practice, look back in the past where your players are coming from, perhaps even at the beginning of the practice. So at the beginning of the practice, you didn't really had any tools or systems to motivate each other when we're down or behind of the enemy team. But now we have learned and developed that we can motivate each other and just to stay consistent on what we do want in order to give us the best opportunity to stay in the game and to even win the game. Well, that make a huge difference, and we worked on that. And if we keep working on that into the future, then, we'll be able to take on anyone, or if we're behind, it's okay. We are able to deal with it, right? So you state the progress that they've made in any form of way that you seem fit. But this can also be, from a month before or the beginning of the season. It's a beautiful moment to put the development and their learnings into perspective. Because if you implement this, they will always have a sense that the session was meaningful and that they're working to something even bigger and better into the future. Because sometimes it's just like an empty or singular session every single practice that feels like sometimes meaningless. but it helps for players tremendously to overcome like the feeling of grinding. Oh, just another day of practice. No, you're really working towards something meaningful together as a single player and also as a team. So that really helps a lot and show how the future can or will look like. That is really motivating and inspiring. Then we came to the ending of practice. Ending of practice. It's very simple and easy. So you also want to have a routine put into place for this, and this is easily overlooked, right? Because everyone is just doing the same, especially if you're in gaming house. Some people just like are gone, some players are staying. So you want to have some built-in routines that they always do, and it's always a fixed moment of ending, because there's nothing as a terrible feeling, what I've heard from many coaches or experienced myself as well, when you're at the ending of the practice, right? Everyone feels like, hey, we can go home or have time because it was a very exhausting practice. And then another player brings in another problem, and there will be a discussion about between 1-2 players and the coach, while the rest of the 3 players have nothing to do with it, and they're basically held hostage for another 20 to sometimes an hour of being in the session. So that is not what you want in terms of to keep the motivation and engagement high. So you want to have a clear ending of your practice. So that's why it's an important step. And it can include, okay, guys, before we leave, clean up your desk, tidying up, be sure to save your VOD review, close out your tabs, your games, turn off your console or PC. Just very mundane, simple things, but don't underestimate the power. Because if you don't have these simple routines as just cleaning or everything else, you will become the mom of the team, while you'll be running after everyone's asses to clean up after them and to fix their things. While if you do it as a collective unit with, 3, 4, 5 players all at the same time, it will be done within 5 minutes or even less, just 1 minute. So don't underestimate this. The next thing is you also want to set out, reach out to practice partners, maybe the scrims for the next day to schedule with your players, or maybe scheduling when they're practicing with their duo partners, or reach out to other players for positional coaching or whatever. Make sure it all is done within this practice and it's always a set time, because that alleviates the pressure or the workload as well. Because if you don't do that, they might have to do it, 3 hours from now, but then they are tired, they don't do it, forget it, and, you have all of, weird excuses coming up. So that's why you want to make it fixed in your routine as well. Yeah, nightmares of boot camping with players aren't good with life skills and don't clean up the PC. Yeah, you really want and need to make agreements about this before you go into the boot camp and everything, or when you start the boot camp. Exactly, Pandas. It builds a sense of accountability, which carries over to their in-game. Exactly. You got it. And the last thing is always end on a positive, but a note, preferably with a personal signature thing. So maybe a compliment round or something nice or something fun or something, right? That's always, not like in a negative or pressuring way. So always end, with good spirits as possibly you can. Right? Really important. So guys, there you have it. Within 90 minutes, we've covered the framework of coaching, the preparation, welcome, warm-up, retrospect, introduction, the core of the practice, evaluation of the practice, looking back and looking ahead, and also the ending of the practice. Within each single step, there is more details and more things, more exercises, etc. But I believe this is a good structure where you have a lot of questions answered on how you can improve things if you take all the questions and the things from this webinar already. So be sure to use it, right? It's just a muscle, just like going to the gym. At the beginning might be difficult, or you feel like, this is a little bit awkward. I don't know if it's, for me, but it's really, really awesome if you get a routine for it. So guys, before we end the webinar, so evaluation for yourself. So what was your biggest challenge when structuring your practice? right? That's the question we've all answered in the beginning. And did you came closer to overcoming your challenge? How did you experience it? What did you learn from today's webinar? And what are you going to do, stop doing, or never forget from this webinar? Even if it's only one thing, I'd rather have you have one thing than, think about 10 things that you find interesting but are not able to use in your practice. So please answer the questions for yourself. So what did you learn? Yes, Salvador. If you feel like 4 questions is too much, that's okay. Then just I want to know, what did you learn from today's webinar? Or what are you going to do, stop doing, or never forget from the webinar? Either one of those. If you stay around, Leon, I will go back specially for you. Okay? So don't go anywhere. Okie dokie. Right, yeah, the warm-up. It's a surprising thing, because with the coaches I work with, that is usually one of the things that's on top that stands out with the framework of coaching, and it is hugely impactful. So I really, invite you to just try it. Not to warm up with the game, but have everyone doing the same task and do something together for 5 minutes. It will change the way you want to start your practices all the time. Trust. Yeah, the retrospect part. What did you learn in scrims to the day before? Yep, a lot of confirmation. Also the last part, when the training finished. Leox saying being disciplined. Yep, agree on all the steps you mentioned. All right. Sir, yes, sir. Start doing stop and go moments. Yeah, stop doing saying, no, don't do this. I like that a lot. Never forget the coaches set the scene for the whole practice. So what I missed the most, I guess, is the 80-20 positive talk. Some webinars and masterclass as always. Even if you already know stuff, it's next level. Yeah, thank you, Salva. Always try to make it as practical as possible. Of course, there's much more, in-depth stuff behind everything. But this is where it all begins, right? And even if you get all of these things right, that is, deceptively simple. But in fact, it is simple, but doesn't mean it's easy. If you only do the things that we've mentioned today and we talked about today, like your coaching will skyrocket 1000%. All right. Very intuitive. Thank you, Donny. Right. Exactly. Awesome. So looking back and ahead, great reminder to keep a good vibe. Yeah. Efficiency. All right. So guys, looking back and ahead. So what is next? So you guys have all, at the beginning of the of this webinar, you've all, had some questions, some answers as well being given. So right now, probably, I hope that for everyone who has attended this masterclass has an idea of like, hey, these are some things on the top of my head that I can improve or put my emphasis on to help me improve structuring my practices. That makes me more confident, because now, I also have my confirmation that I'm doing some things right, and I can, work on some other thing, which is amazing, right? This is really good news for you, right? And because we all started somewhere, maybe years ago already, and we just try to do and work it, from our experience, and we read a couple of books and stuff. But my thing was, after reading all of these things, I always looked at like confirmation of like, I was confident that I hoped and believed it worked, but there's always something after I went through a course or experienced something new that builds on the confidence level. But you don't always have to do it on your own, because there is so much more into the future lying ahead of you. And I hope this webinar will be another dot in your level in terms of reach your ambitions, right? At the end or at the top of the mountain, whether that is, going to a LAN event, getting paid full time in esports coaching or whatever. And, if that is, something you guys are okay with, right? Because we are done with the masterclass, so I don't want to hold anyone hostage. I do have something that I would like to show you guys if you guys have another like 5 to 10 minutes, I believe, which can help you reach the next steps, right, within your coaching career and how you can improve your coaching. And we also like how to understand and really master like the framework of coaching and many other techniques as well in your coaching. So if you guys have some couple of minutes and would like to stay, then please stay. But if you gotta go, right, because it was 90 minutes, I tried to, speed run it, you can go. But if you feel like, hey, it doesn't matter, you got me some value, so I'm glad to hear what you have to say, then let me know. Because I don't want to, force you anything you are not interested in. So the Salva is in, sorry, Pandas as well. All right, so if you guys are, interested into learning what I have, that will be great. Else we can end it here. But all right, here are already some coaches that are like, okay, that they are in as well. Okay, they're in. There's a couple of people. Clap, clap. So yeah, 100%. Just let me take a sip. Yeah, no problem. Sovitwix. All right, awesome, man. Awesome. Glad you took so many notes and it was valuable to you. That means a lot. All right, Leon, let's stay around. Let's do it. Yep, me too. All right, cool emoji. So I think that's enough. So guys, I maybe for clap. Yeah. Well, even though, sometimes people are like surprised, like, hey, aren't you supposed to be like a professional, super serious and everything? Well, it needs to be a right balance with, a little bit of memeing and fun as well, right? Else I won't be doing this. I need to have a little bit of fun and humor in my life. So clap. So for sure. Yeah, Mr. Baguette, thank you. All right, guys, so let's jump into it. So as you guys are aware, maybe some people are new into the Discord server since so many joined in the last couple of days since I announced the webinar. But I have a 10-week esports coaching course where you'll be improving your esports coaching skills and learn how to make more money. And this is something I would like to talk about, or at least show you a little bit around, or get a little bit of feel to. Of course, I have it also put on my website, but I would like to run a couple of things to put it into your top of your attention. So the last course has just ended like close to 2 weeks ago now, and there were the founding member group of like 20 coaches, esports coaches, and it was super fun, super transformational, really career changing. So I would like to share some insights and some experience of that as well. Plus, there are some people right now in terms of coaches that also been with the esports coach revolution. So it's cool to have you guys here, and as always with the support. So it's maybe not something new for you, but thank you guys for staying around. So in the esports coach revolution, the 4 main focus points is really about leadership and teamwork. So how can you be the leader your team wants you to be, right? Because being a coach, you automatically are in a leadership position. I also know coaches that are more, in the background, etc., and that is okay. But you can still be as a more, quiet coach or more in the background coach, you can still be a very effective leader. And inside the coach, you will be handed all the tools, all the insights, all the structures, framework, and everything to really present yourself as a confident leader, and how to work on the teamwork together to really make something beautiful every single time when you're working with individuals or with teams. You'll be handing over transformational coaching and teaching techniques. So now we have covered, how to be 80 to 20% like positive, right? That is one of the topics, or about compliments. But how do you exactly in detail with all of these examples and frameworks and tools and checklists and everything, how do you give the right positive feedback? How do you give positivity in terms of like compliments? How do you create a thriving and performance climate? All of these things, you will be getting those things in the esports coach revolution, and you will be learning effectively how to structure effective practices and get consistent results. As I've mentioned, right, this is like the bare bones version of the framework of coaching that we ran through in 90 minutes. Inside the course, we'll be spending significant time, and it will be because I believe we spent like 8 hours completely with all of the things of how to welcome, what to say, when to say it, what questions, how to do all of these things, and with every single step, one or more exercises to truly experience the power of every single exercise or step. Right, so you've experienced like the VOD review with the Call of Duty, so that is one example, but also about different games, about warming up every single time that we meet in the live sessions, etc., etc. So it's really being involved into the learning process and used all the tools. And the last thing, certainly not unimportant, because with most of the coaches, about like 90% I talk to, they have higher and greater ambitions than they are currently at. In esports, they're just starting out, or doing as like a part-time job, and would like to upgrade it to a full-time job. So also we'll be spending 2 full weeks, a full complete module of 2 weeks of like how to reach out, how to network, how to do all of these things to put yourself in the best spot to succeed. Right, with marketing yourself, creating a portfolio, writing messages, negotiation, you name it, we will go over it. So that is a complete thing. And that is structured in 7 modules. So 10 weeks we go through these 7 modules. So really getting to ready for your next level. So really being clear of like, what do I want to get out of this course after 10 weeks? But now the most also important thing, what or where do I want to be in 12 months? And how does my roadmap look like? Because everyone's journey is different, because of the game, the culture, everything is different. But we're getting very clear and precise on that. So it really drives you and inspires you to reach that top. Right, and immediately after the first session, you already know about like, okay, these are the opportunities and directions I can go as an esports coach, and that is really game changing. So we go really deep into the framework of coaching, nitpicking on every single detail, and you will get a complete template. It's called the practice preparation sheet, where from the feedback, it's been like a God blessing and basically a cheat sheet on like how to prepare everything effortlessly in a short amount of time. So you don't have to retend all of this from this webinar, but really can just fill out every single thing, hold it next to you or your second monitor while you're having the session, and your session will be sublime and really transformational. Then the 4 pillars of coaching. So this is really the fundamental of like structure and clarity, how to make agreements, how to make a performance and psychological safe environment, how to stimulate and motivate, how to create a positive and fun environment where everyone wants to show up and is fighting for each other, how to give individual attention and to make connections with the person behind the player, so you can coach the person instead of the player alone. And last, certainly not least, is transferring control, and that's all about asking questions, how to be the coach that you want to be, so you can be their guide in their process. Because the biggest mistake, if I can abolish right now, is all of the coaches that are only giving answers, right? How can I do this, right? Okay, here's the answer, here's the solution, here's the solution. It's not transformational. Some things might be, might be stuck, but asking the right questions and helping the player understand why he has to do stuff and why it is a solution, it's groundbreaking. And if you really want to become, a high-level coach, this is all you want to learn. Then the coaching and teaching techniques as well, with how can you really transform a player with miracle questions. So whatever, even when a player is stuck, right, you can always go through a process or a template that is ready for pickup and ready to go to always find the next step and level. And also team building and conflict management. How does a team work? How do you overcome conflicts? And it's so super practical and easy, and you can be making it your own within just one single session, right? Everything is made practical. And of course, big money in terms of like growing your career and making more money, making portfolio, networking, how to do that, showing it step by step, and really working together to make it happen. And then the last week, the certification, and really have a proof of your competence and effort, right? And this can help a lot when you're reaching out to new teams, that you're serious about development and that you really care about also, right, in your seriousness about esports coaching, which is something, right, that is valued. It is not a certificate of completion. I don't do that because you have to do and showcase your work with work examples before you can become certified, right? Because I will be helping you with networking, your next steps as well. So I'd like to work, with people who are super serious about that and really ambitious. And all of the coaches inside the programs are just that. So if you feel like, hey, this is pretty awesome, then, maybe it is something for you. So in short, well, you can read it or make a screenshot for later, but this is Liam, one of the coaches. He said, because, you can take my words for granted, but these are, his words. Before joining the course, I lacked structure and direction. The Esports Coach Revolution really helped me with structure and where I need to go. I can now provide high quality sessions developed by myself. I feel so much different after the course. The value what I got from the course is so much more than I paid for. It was for sure one of the most enjoyable things I have ever done in my life. And he also, not too shabby, the GOAT himself, exactly, that he got more clients because, he can retain them. It's easier to get clients and, get some extra cash in. So it's immediately return. This is Patino from Argentina. Very amazing guy. Everything is different from before and after the Esports Coach Revolution. Coaching is all about communication between the coach and the player, and learning how to do this was my biggest breakthrough. This course brought me perspective on my career, and my future is now clear. This has been one of the best courses I took in life because of the changes of perspectives and the fun. So, and Pedro Impulse, Rocket League, he's in the big leagues of Guild Esports, and he says, this course has definitely helped my success presently. There are a lot of things I learned in real time when I was in situations where I actually needed the course content. And if you can see that development as a coach requires more knowledge and you are having a hard time seeking, this is a great start. What Donny says you will get is exactly what you're going to get, plus all the learnings from other coaches, which was one of the coolest things. So as you can see, it's from 3 different continents as well. So you will be mixed with very different cultures, different perspectives, and that's a very rich learning and working environment. So yeah, Goyo, Impulse #1 fan. So yeah, big time on that one. So the Esports Coach Revolution, that is what it is. Usually the value of that is 997, because that is what I'm still, building. I think is very much worth that, especially with the things that are on its way for the next round and also into the future, because you're keeping a lifetime access to all of the content, all of the updates, all of everything. But it's not all, because if you feel like, okay, but I have specific things, you will also get 30 masterclasses with 50 plus hours of in-depth specific esports coaching content, with improving to coach, performance coaching, development of team cohesion, and also growing your career. So this is valued for like roughly $200, but it's now also added for free. And the esports team formula. So if you're looking for more tools, how do I really make like these workshops? How can I, sort of make in the beginning stage, some performance coaches, obsolete, because you will have all these workshops, all the tools, all of the things, all of the materials that you need in order to start your season perfectly and really create a unified and synergized team. This is the thing that you want to have, and that is like priced at $147, but is now also added for free. So this is like the total value of $1,343, and is now available for the next group for $397. So the start date is Saturday the 13th of May, and it's starting at 8 p.m. Central European time. So if you are looking for, hey, maybe that's something for me that is interesting, you can check out the website for, more in-depth information. You can go back to it, or you can also send me a DM in terms of like just my Discord, and we can schedule a call if you have like questions or concerns of like whatever, or, how does it work? What if I don't like it? I can guarantee you this. You can join the course for the 30 days. And if you don't like it, if you feel like, this is not really for me, I immediately refund everything without any questions asked. But I think it will be a hard thing, but that's me. It's up to you, just to provide you some risk-free investment. So if you are looking for a way to improve your coaching career and really make a leap, then probably this is something that is interesting for you. So that is the end. That is the last thing I wanted to share with you guys. So if you guys have questions or contributions, or if you guys immediately questions about the course, or maybe some experienced guys. So we have Gracie Bares, Kiba, and also Flukik inside the call. So if you got questions for them, they were inside the course as well. So if you got questions, don't take it from me, but take it from them. They are here. So, and besides that, take a look and let me know what you think. And this is the end. Yeah, thinking about joining for the upcoming session. Awesome. Yeah, you can also DM Flukik, sure thing. And if not, I would like to see you guys in a next webinar, or maybe in the Esports Coach Revolution,